This is the Halftime Show with Omar Ardori on Pulse 95.
Yes, this is episode 300. Who would have thought? We are here and we are live on Pulse 95 Radio with your boy Omar Ardori. Thank you very much for being part of this journey, and I can't wait to share this episode with you because you have been such an integral part of this journey. Thank you so much to every guest, every person listening, every person following, every person sending comments in. Really appreciate it. And who better than to have an absolute legend on the show? Brian Keane is a best-selling author of The Fitness Mindset and Rewire Your Mindset, a legend in the industry, and an absolute honor to have him on my 300th show. He's one of the best fitness and nutrition coaches in the world, and he's live with us here on Pulse 95 on the only place to be at 3, the Halftime Show on Pulse 95.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Ardori on Pulse 95.
Yes, we are live, and we're live on the Halftime Show, episode 300. And who better than to have the legend himself, Brian Keane, is in the building. What's up, Brian?
What's up, Omar? Can't wait to chat, mate. Long time overdue.
You know, we were talking off air and we were saying we were supposed to do this pre-COVID. You know, and the fact that we've forwarded time, you've had a lot of success. You've had a second book as well. Man, talk to me about how all that's been for you.
Yeah, so I think there's been a little bit of a turn on the sound, Omar, because background noise there. I can't hear anything else but the noise. Yeah, so I've been really fortunate over the last while. Like we were saying that we would hopefully get together at some point when I'm in Dubai. But because of the way the world has been over the last 18 months, well, mate, I actually need to really turn down your sound. It's a bit overpowering on my side here. So the last 18 months have been really good. I had the second book out, Rewire Your Mindset, a copy that I sent you several times that had bounced back, because every time it goes to the UAE, it's like bounces back to me with all these stamps and addresses. I'm like, right, Omar, I'll give it to you in person when I see you. And I spent the last 18 months, I've been writing the third book, which is going to be out at the end of the year, which is a nutrition book. So the last 18 months have been kind of focused on that. You know, I've been blessed, really, mate. Like all my family have been well. You know, my daughter's doing great. The COVID situation has been hard for everybody, of course, but like I live in the middle of the country, in the middle of Ireland. So if you turned off the news, you know, as long as everyone was healthy and well, you wouldn't know that there was a pandemic going on in the world. So I've been very lucky over the last 18 months. But yeah, it's been great. Training away is normal, writing away is normal, working away is normal, and just trying to keep the impact that I've been having pre-COVID, keeping people going with their mindset who were struggling during that time. But hopefully we're over the worst of it now and we're coming out the other side. Absolutely.
And you're someone that I've been following for a while. One of the things that I admire about yourself is when you found your purpose, when you found your calling, and you often allude to saying, you know, is your ladder up against the right wall? Talk to me about what that means and how people who are listening can relate to that.
Yeah, so when I talk about ladder being up against the right wall, I effectively mean get very clear on what your end goal looks like. What's the thing that you want to do? And then the analogy for the ladder works that it's process over outcome. So the language I put on that is just basic, you know, psychology of goal setting, where you focus on the process, what you're doing day to day, and you've got the outcome, you know what you're looking to do. And the example I use from my books and from my podcast is, you know, I work in the fitness industry now. I've been very lucky with the books I've written, the courses I've made, the programs. I do all my stuff online, but I was a primary school teacher, an elementary school teacher. That was my background. And I came up with that analogy of the ladder against the wrong wall was because I spent years in university, years in college, studying to get a degree. And then I got my first teaching job. And then I'd say an hour, Omar, into my first day, I was like, oh my God, this isn't what I want to do. I was like, I've spent all this time, energy, effort, money, getting a degree in this area that I actually don't really feel that passionate about. And the analogy is the ladder up against the wrong wall. I was climbing and I was just being tunnel visioned. I was never asking the question, you know, am I enjoying this process, or is this really where I want to go? And I was making the decisions based on expectations of others or based on insecurities within myself, that if I said I did this thing, I should go and do it, and not giving myself permission to change my mind. And as a result of that, I got to the top of that ladder, which was effectively hitting the goal, but realized it was against the wrong wall. And when I talk to people now about their goal setting, whether it's, you know, weight loss or muscle or a endurance event or a business side hustle or a family thing, whatever your goals are, it's like, well, is your ladder up against the right wall? And all that can give you is feedback that what you're doing is right. If you're enjoying that process and it's truly what you want, you can just keep climbing, and it becomes this perpetual state of, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm getting closer to my goal every time. And then, if the bar moves. You hit 100-pound weight loss target, and then you decide I'm going to lose 110 pounds. I have more to lose, or whatever it is. It's so relative. And you just keep climbing. So that's something I use to this day, Omar, that when I'm setting goals, I will always ask myself, in my relationship, my romantic and personal relationship with friends, my daughter, am I being the kind of dad I want to be? My goal setting when it comes to endurance events and, muscle building or body composition, I'm always asking, is my ladder up against the right wall? Is this really what I want to be doing? Am I enjoying this process? And when that answer comes back is yes, I just continue to find.
Yeah, see, that sounds exactly, because it also shows me that you've obviously been through your trials, your tribulations. You've been through things. It's been tried and tested. You've tried things with your personal life. You tried things with your work. You've tried things with your fitness goals, and it's almost kind of all merged for you to be able to now coach it to people. How different is Brian the person to Brian the coach?
It's funny because I think my answer on this has changed over the years, Omar, because I would have said at one point they were very different, because the approaches I used were all based on, well, this is what's going to work specific to the person. But then as I reflected on it more, I'm like, well, where are all these tools coming from? And I was able to pull it back and go, well, the reason I'm able to give advice on mindset or on business or on fitness is because I've done a lot of it myself. Now, also, you're taking it from other people and other resources, listening to podcasts, getting from books, like you're pulling tools and you're pulling techniques based on what you're consuming. Tell me what you listen to and read every day. Tell me the information and the people you're around every day. I'll tell you how you think in a year. Like, it's going to give you that input to how you're going to think going forward. And over the years, it's merged closer together, just because I really struggle to separate the two now. Like, my content online, and you've said this to me, you've been really kind with the words you've used with me, that how I come across online is how I am. And like that's intentional. Now, if you ask my closest friend or you ask my partner, she'll tell you I'm a scaled down version. She's like, I remember when I met my partner, she told me before, and she's like, I thought you were going to be super hyped all the time and there was no chill, no calm. And then as she told me like 6 months later, she was like, you're actually really chill. And, you can get hyped up when you're excited about things, but you're actually just on a baseline of normal chill. And it's things like that are different. When I think of Brian Keane fitness versus Brian Keane the person, it's just you're getting it ramped to 11 for the most part when it comes to media or podcast you're recording or videos. You're more high energy. Or when I'm speaking or giving live talks, you're just more high energy, where there's very little difference in terms of the advice I offer. It's probably just the energy level of how I distribute the information that's slightly different.
Yeah, you guys have to make sure you follow him, especially if you don't follow him already. His content is on point. Right, we're going to take a quick break, play some Aya Nakamura, and we'll be right back after this. Enjoy, folks.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
Yes, we are live, and we are live on Pulse 95 Radio in the heart of Sharjah, and it is episode 300. Yes, we made it. We got there together, folks. And who else am I going to get on the show than the legend and the man himself? Brian Keane is joining us today, all the way from Ireland. Is that right, Brian?
That's right. I'm sitting in my car here in a beautiful sunny day in a heat wave. And it's not quite Dubai level heat. Pretty hot for Ireland.
I was going to say to you, that weather looks good. That's not normally Ireland, is that?
No. We've got a heat wave. Like, we've got one of our 5 or 6 really hot days of the year, so I'm embracing it now.
Well, I'm glad the sun is shining down us here and over there, because Brian's someone I've been wanting to get on the show, for a very long time. He was supposed to come on the show. Actually, we met a couple of years ago now. It's been a couple of years between us, and I've followed his success. Man, his content is on point. And I was saying to him off air, he is that person that we're speaking to now. You don't get it half or empty. It's something that pretty much is something that when you follow, you just feel good about his content. So I'm very happy that he's on the show. Now, with that, we see a lot of things in health, well-being, fitness, Brian, and that's myths. Especially with goal setting. And because you've got 2 fantastic books, The Fitness Mindset and Rewire Mindset, I'm going to try and debunk that with myths and must-dos in goal setting. Talk to me about myths that you often hear as a coach.
There's so many when it comes to misconceptions and myths that people hold, and it depends on the context of the goal generally. Like when I hear, I work with a lot of people for weight loss and fat loss and body composition, and what you'll have, and a lot of the myths that I'll get are either a combination of a self-help story that holds people back, mixed with, say, miseducation or consuming the wrong information that's actually basic nutritional principles. So, I'll break down the first one. Like a story you tell yourself is, I can't lose weight, I can't build muscle, I can't do X, Y, or Z. I'm like, yeah, well, of course, if that's the mindset that you're coming at any given goal with, it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, as opposed to flipping it into something as simple as, how can I versus I can't, can open up a whole realm of potential ideas or books or coaches or people who can help you hit your end goal. It's talk about it in Rewire Your Mindset. It's the reticular activation system. It's the neuroscience of your brain targeting towards a specific goal, your brain's GPS. Another word for it is like the law of attraction. It's the bit more Western side in terms of, you'll attract what you put out there and what you think about, and I believe that, but there's good cognitive neuroscience to back that up. So what I'd say is you set the goal first and foremost, whatever it is, however unrealistic it seems in your mind, you set the goal and you'll start seeing things that you didn't see before. The example I would use here is, Omar, I'm wearing a blue t-shirt now, a blue Nike t-shirt, no affiliation, no sponsor, but I have a blue Nike t-shirt, and anybody else that's watching this video live that has a similar t-shirt be like, oh, I have that t-shirt, whereas other people wouldn't even recognize it. Or you could put me into a room with 1,000 people and people would see the t-shirt and go, I have that one at home. That's your reticular activation system. That's your brain's GPS focusing on the thing that's relative to you, because you have that same t-shirt in your wardrobe at home. And that works for goal setting. So if you set yourself up a weight loss goal, you start seeing gyms everywhere, or you start seeing coaches everywhere. They were always there, but now that you've set the goal, you're starting to see these things that were just out of your frame of view in terms of the lens in which you see the world. So that's why I tell people to set the goal, set them big, and you'll start to see things mapping towards that. You start seeing things that you didn't see before. So that's one side of it. The other then is a misconception around food. Like, that's probably the biggest one I get when people come to me and separate food into good and bad categories. Like, that's one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to nutrition. Like, what I tell people is, a piece of broccoli is not going to save you from a burning building, and a chocolate bar is not going to murder you down a back alley. Like, they're not good or bad. There's no good or bad food. There's foods that's high calories, and there's food that's low calories. There's foods that's high nutrient and foods that are low nutrient. And there's a food that's a combination of both. And good or bad depends on the context. Somebody would say, I can't eat chocolate, it's really bad, it's really fattening. And I'd say, well, is it in a calorie controlled plan? I'm like, if that chocolate bar every day is the thing that keeps you on plan and you look forward to it, and your calories are low enough that you can tap into fat stores for fuel, you're still going to lose body fat over time. 100%, and you're not going to feel restrictive. So when it comes to myths and conceptions, that's everything from the nutritional side to just the mindset side in general. And I think that mindset side of the story you tell yourself comes into all different areas. I can't start a business. I can't find the right partner. I can't lose weight. I can't build muscle. These are all stories, and my general rule of thumb is if you've learned it or it's a learned behavior, then you can unlearn it. So those belief systems were learned from whatever your experiences, the way you were brought up, the way you interact with the world. But if that's the case, you can unlearn them. So you're going through a process of unlearning to hit a potential goal. So there's lots of different things that I see, myths and misconceptions. That's just some of them.
And how long does it take to learn them or make them part of an actual routine rather than, a lot of people sometimes stop or cut it short?
I find that learning things and with the people I've worked with is considerably easier than unlearning. And when it comes to learning, you could learn something, in a day or two. Like, I could say something about food to somebody and they grasp it instantly. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I totally get that. The foods aren't good or bad. Whereas somebody else, the analogy I would give is it's kind of like seeds in the ground versus an oak tree. Like, it's so much easier to dig up a seed in the ground when it's just been put down there, i.e. you haven't held that belief system for that long, versus, a sapling that's growing. It's going to take a little bit more effort to get that out, versus an oak tree, which takes considerably longer. And that's how your habits are, and that's how your belief systems are. The longer you've been thinking something, and the longer that you've reinforced that thought process over and over again, the harder it is to change it. So the timeline and the time expectation that you give yourself depends on your starting point. If you've just been consuming some rubbish on Instagram for the last 3 months, it's going to be easier to unlearn things, because once you get the right person, or you're working with that person, or potentially just consuming their content, you're going to re-educate yourself, versus somebody who's been, what I call yo-yo dieting for 20 years. It's way harder to change their belief systems around food and nutrition because they've been doing it for 20 years. So the change and the mindset shift depends on the starting point, and then just giving yourself enough runway of time in terms of the expectation levels, because it's not going to happen overnight. If you've been doing something or thinking a certain way for the last 10 years, it's going to take longer. So you need to know that on the front end, but at least it gets your ladder up against the right wall with the way you should be thinking.
Absolutely. And you mentioned social media there, and having obviously followed your content, you've spoken about like social detox. How important is that to kind of also keeping yourself on track?
For me, it's absolutely key. So I do a weekly digital detox. I also do a slight daily one, but a weekly digital detox. So you know this, Omar, when you've messaged me on a Saturday or Sunday and I don't get back to you till Monday because I'm not on social media over the weekends. I do a digital detox every weekend for a couple of reasons. One, for me, it's too easy to get stuck down the rabbit hole of social media. And I have a very good relationship with it now, but I didn't once upon a time. Like when I was growing my Instagram first and different social platforms first, I was going in and checking the likes every time someone liked or commented, and I would just get sucked down this rabbit hole. Or worse, I would start scrolling through other people's feeds and go into kind of comparison syndrome. If I saw somebody that was bigger than me or leaner than me or making more money potentially than me or looked happier than me, whatever my value was at the time or wherever I was putting my value system at the time, it would make me feel really bad. And, you know, not realizing that one, Instagram and social media is the highlight reel anyways. You're not getting somebody's true reflection on who they are for the most part. You're getting what people want you to see. The example I use is my daughter and my partner. Neither of them are on my social media, you know, and probably two of the closest relationships in my entire life, and they're not on my platform, you know. So it tells you everything you need to know about social media. And for me, the digital detox is very much down to just keeping myself fresh with it. Like I'm pretty good with things like Instagram and getting back to DMs and trying to serve the people who are following me. And I can't do that if I do it 7 days a week. It's like training. Like training's brilliant, and I would train 7 days a week if I could, but if I did, my training would suffer, you know. So I don't. I train 5 days a week and I take 2 rest days, and social media is the same. So I can do it for 5 days and I reply to people and I'm good with it, and then I take a 2-week break or 2-day break and I focus on the other things in my life that are a higher priority: my family, having quality time with my daughter, making sure I'm present with my partner, all of these things. And that digital detox, you know, I don't go on for the first hour or two in the morning, I don't go on the last hour or two at night, and then coming off at the weekend allows me to kind of see what actually is valuable in my life versus what I call junk values and checking social media too often. And it's one thing that has reaped a massive benefit for me in my life, and I highly recommend people experiment with it for sure, especially if you think you're addicted to your phone or you've got some form of social media addiction or you're losing time in the day to it. It's definitely worth experimenting with.
Fantastic. We're going to take a quick break, but listen, if you thought that was good, there's much more coming from the man himself, Brian Keane. He's going to be joining me here on the Halftime Show, on the only place to be at 3, the Halftime Show on Pulse 95.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. It's the Halftime Show with Omar Adori. I'm your host, covering everything sport, international and local. Now, on the show, you know we do more than just talk about sports. We talk about what happens behind the scenes. We talk about mental health, gut health, and how important the brain is on the body, performance, mind, body, and soul. And who better than 2-time bestseller, fitness mindset, rewired mindset, Brian Keane is in the building. I don't know why I want to call him Kino. I don't know if you've got that before.
You can call me Kino. Totally brings me right back to high school. Totally works.
So, Kino, tell me, we've obviously spoken a lot about, you know, myths and must-dos and goal setting, but I also want to tackle the brain and the importance of it in terms of mental health. And it's something that I've been very, very fortunate to be able to have this platform to raise awareness out here in the UAE and obviously across the region with mental health, you know. And you mentioned social detoxing earlier. What kind of things can we do to really enhance that and get the best out of that?
Yeah, I think when it comes to mental health, it's very much a case of what side are you coming at it from. And I've spoken in books and on podcasts about my issues with it. You know, I've had cases of like environmental depression where I've like had bad experiences, mostly self-inflicted stuff, but it's been mostly anxiety for me. I used to get panic attacks and anxiety attacks just from that type A personality where your brain is go, 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 and you just can't shut it down. And I think it's important for people to one, and identify what their triggers are. You know, for me, social media was one. That's why we talked about the social media earlier. It was a trigger for high anxiety states for me. So removing myself and putting a system around that instead of, you know, just using willpower to come off it, where I don't go on it at weekends, was something that massively impacted my mental health in a positive way. Other things are obviously going to be the way you eat. You know, your food determines massively how you're going to feel. So like, I don't tell people to follow my nutritional strategy. Like, I follow a, you know, mostly plant-based, lots of whole foods, you know, a little bit of chocolate and alcohol, like drink things I enjoy, but I do them in moderation. And that makes me feel so much better in terms of my gut health, which obviously has a massive link, as you mentioned there, when it comes to, you've spoken about this on the show, the gut health and your link to mental health in terms of your serotonin production, etc. So looking at that side, and then training. Like, training for me makes a massive impact on how I feel through the day. You know, running in particular is something that kind of clears my head on top of my HIIT workouts or my weight workouts. But what I would generally say when it comes to mental health, and this sounds, Omar, like complete simplicity, but it's true, and this is what I do in my own life, is make a list of all the things that you enjoy and that make you happy, and then make another list of all the things that make you miserable and suck your energy, and put those people in there as well, people who suck your energy, those emotional vampires. And then make that list, spend more time doing the things that make you happy and less time doing the things that make you unhappy. Like, it sounds so simple, but I, in my early life, didn't do it. You know, I spent way more time with people who I shouldn't have been spending time with, doing things that I didn't really enjoy doing, and less time doing the things that I did love doing. So I think that's a very simple approach that can help a lot of people when it comes to their mental health, because different things will impact that. For me, it's eating well, spending high quality time with my family and my loved ones and my inner circle, you know, making sure I get to work out every day, making sure I get to read every day, making sure I get to create content every day. Like, that's a big thing for me. It's my creative outlet, is creating videos or podcasts or writing books. And then, you know, the things that take it away are poor food, poor quality sleep, being around people who suck my energy, or people who are always you know, undermining you with their words and, you know, sending emotional bullets your way. I spend less time with those people, and then as you will start to see, your mental health starts to climb, and you feel better day to day. But you have to do it consistently. But it all starts with making that list on the front end. As I said, it sounds super simple, but it's something that I didn't do when I was 24, 25, that I would have benefited greatly from doing back then.
And at what point did you realize that it was okay to, you know, be in silence and just be able to just listen to your own thoughts rather than other people's thoughts, to be able to actually put down on paper these simple things that actually are quite hard to do?
Yeah, like, for me, it was a combination of building inner confidence. And like, you build confidence by just repeatedly keeping promises to yourself. Like, that's it. The more times you do it, you say you're going to do something, whether that's prepping meals or going to the gym or doing a run or, you know, being present with loved ones, you know, it goes all the way up on a different scale. Every time you do that, you build confidence with yourself. And as I started to do that more often, and it helped me a lot in my early 30s, a little bit towards my late 20s, when I was competing in bodybuilding and fitness model shows, because I said I would do those things and they scared the bejesus out of me. Like, I was terrified to do them, but then when I did them, I got a load of confidence out the other side. And the same thing happened when I ran, you know, Marathon des Sables in 2018, and when I ran through the Arctic in 2019, and my first 100 miler in 2020. Like, they were all goals. Now, you don't have to set those goals. Like, it's relative. My 100 mile ultra marathon is somebody else's 5-kilometer run. So it's setting a goal and then keeping the promise to yourself that you're going to do the training for that, and that builds confidence over time. And as you build internal confidence and self-confidence, it's easier to start listening to that voice that's in your head versus the external world. And again, like everything, when we talked about this earlier, it doesn't happen overnight, but as there is a tipping point, as you get better with listening to what makes you happy and following that voice inside and blocking out that noise, either through social media, digital detoxes, or not being around those negative people all the time, the emotional vampires who are sucking your energy levels, you start to get more tuned in with that voice. And then after a certain point, there'll be a tipping point where that becomes the primary voice, and that's what you follow and that's what you listen to. So you're just striving for that North Star, you're striving for that goal, but it starts with the small things you can do. Control the controllables, manage your social media, consume the right information online, spend time doing things that you enjoy and around people that lift you and make you feel better, and that all compounds positively over time.
He's lifted me already. I'm ready to go train now. Right, stay tuned for more on the only place to be at 3, the halftime show on Pulse 95.
This is the halftime show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
We are live and we're back on the halftime show on Pulse 95 Radio. We're almost at full time on the halftime show, but hey, who would have thought we'd even be here? So I'm so grateful for every single person who's listened to the show, whether it's 95 FM, pulse95radio.com, our app, Sharjah Broadcasting Authority, or even if you're chilling at home watching us live on YouTube. And for every single person that dropped a comment, a like, or a share on the Instagram live and on the content, thank you. As you know, you guys have been my co-host for the whole 2 years. Now, speaking about host, and he hosts his own podcast, he's got 2 books, and also he's got one more coming out. But we're going to ask him. Brian, we heard you've got one more book coming out. What is the book about? When is it coming out? And how is it different to the other 2 fantastic books that you've got?
So, yes, thanks so much, Omar. Yeah, so I haven't put any of this on my social yet. People just know that follow me that the book is coming out. We're waiting on the release date. But as of now, it's titled The Keen Edge, Mastering Your Mindset for Long-Term Fat Loss. So it's heavy on the nutrition side. So all the books that I've written, Omar, are based on things that I've been asked a lot by my audience. I crowdsource a lot of my writing. So with the new book, it's very heavy on the nutrition side, the mindset side of nutrition, and how to get your head right on top of the nutritional strategy then to follow that can potentially fit into your lifestyle. And I break down all the misconceptions and myths on different diets, different food myths that people have. So it's very heavy on that side. Now there's some sleep stuff in there, stress stuff in there, training stuff in there, but it's very, very heavy on the nutrition and the mindset side. As of now, it's looking like October, November, December. I haven't got the release date before the end of the year. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing how people find that too when it's out. Amazing.
Looking forward to that. But also, Brian, what I like, I was going to say Kino, but what I like...
Call me Kino. Kino works.
Kino. You also certify, and here's the thing, when it comes down to the health and fitness industry, when it comes down to well-being, you know, there's so many trainers and coaches out there. But what I like about what you do is you offer that knowledge and you really go out there to try and get people on the right track, especially that you always say, you know, I don't know everything. I'm trying here to help people out. My purpose is to try and educate people. And I love that you're doing that. Tell me more about your courses that you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, so the courses I do, Omar, thanks again, is the nutrition course is probably the big one at the minute. So we set up a nutrition course. So one of the things that I did when I was qualifying as a nutritionist first, I did sports nutrition first and then went down the general population nutrition, was I struggled a little bit with the consumption on some of those modules. That nutrition is quite difficult in terms of the science, but without context, it makes it very hard to absorb and retain. And what I tried to do with my nutrition course, which helps people and certifies them with, you know, supporting their clients or themselves when it comes to nutrition, is giving the science, but using it in layman's terms and breaking it down and giving the context and examples as to why it fits here. You know, everything from, you know, macronutrient breaks and phytochemicals and how that works in your body to actually designing your own nutritional plan or nutritional plan for clients and what it needs. So yeah, that course has been really popular with people. I do lots of different programs and courses based on what my audience are asking me for. And that's one that's been the most popular recently, just because there's a lot of misconceptions online, a lot of misconceptions around the education element of what is actual science. But, you know, the what I talk about is science isn't an opinion. It's you know, it's fact based on research and how that research changes, but also you need the context. Like, it's going to be the art is in knowing how to apply it. So that nutrition course is one that's been helping people a lot recently.
Top guy, man. We have reached full time on the halftime show. Brian, thank you so much, man, for taking the time out. I can see you're busy. You're even in the car at the moment doing doing this for us. Really appreciate you, you know, taking the time out to be on the 300 episode. Where can we follow you before I let you go?
Instagram, Omar, thank you so much again for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's such an honor to be on for the 300 too. So thank you and everything that you're doing. For those who want to follow me, Instagram, Brian_Keane_fitness. The podcast is the Brian Keane podcast. And I'm on everything: YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Brian Keane Fitness, wherever you like to consume information.
And he's doing it all, guys. So please, if you don't follow him already, please make sure to follow him. He's a top guy, and I'm so glad he was part of the 300th episode right now. And that is full time. Remember, you can catch it every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, 3 to 4 on the halftime show. And if you did miss the show, you can catch all the podcasts on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, or if you prefer a visual, head over to the YouTube channel, and we are there live. Brian, thank you so much, my man. I salute you.
Thank you. Salute you right back, mate. Thank you.
Take care, guys. Have a great day.
If you liked this episode of The Halftime Show, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.